episode of Jacob's House of Rock. And today, got another unboxing video for you guys. Pretty big one, actually. As you can already sort of guess, we got a guitar in here. And if you read the title of the video, you'd know which one. And that is the Harley Benton SC-550, which is the deluxe version of their sort of Les Paul copy guitar. And there's been quite a boom online saying that this is probably one of the best cheap Les Paul copies. Now, recently I did an unboxing and a review of the Artist Guitars LP59, that's the one, LP59. I absolutely loved that thing, so I'm really curious to see what this one was like. And, you know, later on we're going to do a comparison video, but for now, let's just unbox this thing and see what we got in here. So, big box, much bigger than the Artist Guitar one, which, you know, was a guitar box, so it had a, you know, slanted edge on one side. Feels pretty heavy. Also feels very sort of loose, like the damn thing can wobble around in here, so I don't know how good that is. It also came with, you know, the flap kind of torn like this and stuff. So I don't know what this thing has been through. Again, the Artist Guitar one only had to get to me from Sydney, which is not that far. I live in Brisbane, so it's in the same country. This thing had to get to Australia from Germany, so, you know, it had a bit more of a long run, but postage time wise, not too bad. This thing might have only taken maybe a week, 2 weeks, something like that to get here. So let's get into it. I'm not really sure where to start, but since this side's already torn, I don't know. Okay. So I got one flap open. We got lots of this stuff. It's like a bloody tapeworm. Just all these little airbag stuff that they pack things with. But after that, we have our actual Harley Benton guitar box. Here it is. So Harley Benton is, you know, Thomann, for those of you who don't know. Jeez. God damn it. Fine, I'll show it to you guys upside down. Thomann is this brand, which is, there's the logo upside down on this box. So, that brand is basically an online music store that they have. It's really big in Europe. It's centered in Germany, and actually they have their stickers on this thing too, but you know, whatever. But Harley Benton is the sort of in-house brand name stuff. So their guitars there are ones that they commission, they design, and they have them made in China, but then they ship them over to Germany, set them up there, and then they post them off to wherever they need to go. Generally in Europe people buy these things, but you know, they post them internationally, and that's why this thing's here. So that's what Harley Benton is, where that brand comes from. But it has the benefit that it is kind of like Artist Guitars I was bringing up earlier. Not necessarily a Chinese brand, kind of like those, what are they called, Gibson guitars or anything like that. So it's kind of a little bit different to those. And hopefully the quality control is a bit better, which I've heard is generally good with these things. And to get the lid off, I might have missed some tape up the top. If you can't tell, I'm filming this using not natural light, which is probably why it looks a little weird. And it's pretty late at night because I couldn't get to this thing any earlier. Generally I'd use window light for this and it would be much better. And here we go. Alright. So, lid's off. I can already kind of see the guitar through all this foam. There we go. Let's get that off. Get this down. Ooh, that's a pretty finish. can tell you right away, the finish on this thing, beautiful. So I got the faded tobacco burst or something like that. It's like what the finish on this is called, and it looks really nice right out of the box. Frets on this thing are also nice and shiny, which is pretty cool. Yeah, switch is a little flimsy. I mean, the artist guitar one that came earlier, I'll do a comparison between the two, but the switch on that one felt a bit better. This one definitely works, but not in tune, but it's no big deal. Now, you can see this guitar, it's got a sort of different back here to a traditional Les Paul design. It's got this sloped cutaway, and in this part of the top here, instead of going straight to the side of the neck here, it curves down, and then the horn here is a little bit more sharper and pointed outwards more than your typical Les Paul. Not really initially noticeable, but once you kind of see it, it's kind of hard to unsee. I'll just show you guys this finish. Look at that. That is really beautiful. There was this, and there was the, I forgot what it's called, but it's like a striped maple, a flamed maple one, which is called Paradise Maple or something like that, which is kind of like this, but very accentuated stripes in the maple and none of the smoky edge. And I really wanted a finish like this, and I'm glad I chose it because it looks really pretty. The neck doesn't feel like your typical sort of Les Paul neck. It's a lot flatter feeling. Not a bad feeling neck actually, but it feels very different. Again, very out of tune. The pickups on this particular model are Roswell pickups. They used to use Wilkinsons, I think. They swapped to Roswells, which is a brand I'm unfamiliar with. It's yet to be seen whether these pickups are any good or not. Bridge looks like a typical Tune-o-matic bridge, nothing too fancy. Let's see. Yeah, knobs work okay. No problems there. We'll see when we plug it in. Now I have heard that, yeah, there is a hollow part in this guitar here, so it does feel lighter than that artist guitar one that I was bringing up. The back, just because no one's really shown the back all too good, it's really dark, looks almost black, but if you shine it in the light, and you can definitely see this on camera here, it does have that wood grain pattern, and it should be mahogany. So, you know, proper materials, mahogany for the body and the neck. The top should be, I don't know if they have a maple cap, because the artist guitar one, sorry I keep bringing this one up for you guys who don't know what I'm talking about, but it's just another budget Les Paul in the same price range that we have here in Australia. That I recently picked up, and I'm going to be doing a comparison between the two, and that thing I bloody love. So I keep bringing it up because it's just my main comparison to this thing. But that one apparently has a mahogany cap, not a mahogany cap, geez, a maple cap, which just has a flame maple veneer over the top. So it is basically built like a Les Paul, except for it has a veneer added on to that regular maple instead of just flame maple cap, like a Gibson generally would, I assume. This one I have no idea, but again, it's still hefty, but definitely feels lighter. So if you're looking for a lighter Les Paul type thing, this one would be a good go-to, although I do really like hefty guitars. The headstock? Tuners are these vintage style tuners, like you see here. It says SC-550 Deluxe. What's this? It's made in Vietnam, this guitar, actually, which is pretty cool. So not made in China. I was wrong. Made in Vietnam. And yeah. So it's sort of simple vintage style tuners. They have this nice sort of off green, I'd say, for the tuning pegs. Some people say they stick out a bit far. I think it's just fine. The Harley Benton headstock actually looks a little better in person. I was kind of worried it would look really shitty, for lack of a better word, in person. Especially this little top sort of design they do on it, because I'm not too big a fan of this one. Like I said, like I keep bringing up, the artist guitar one just had like a simple rounded top kind of one like that, which worked a little better, I'd say. But the actual Harley Benton logo is pretty nice. Although what's weird is I think there's a fault in the manufacturing. It should be, I don't know if you can see that there, but on the word Harley, you can see it's kind of got a shine to it, like a pearlescent shine. I think whatever effect they were, like sticker they were putting on it to do that, didn't quite adhere to the whole thing. There's none on Benton, and some of the H and the Y there, it's not covering with that sort of pearlescent shine. It's really hard to tell, and it's not a big deal at all, but in person it is kind of noticeable. Benton does have a shine, but it's not the same as that. I'll show you guys this in the review later on, because I'll do a full review. So I was talking about the woods just a second ago. We have the flame maple veneer, the mahogany. This particular one, the cheaper ones are made of probably basswood, but this one is mahogany. The fretboard is interesting because this is actually a maple fretboard. It's a type of treated maple that they basically like scorch or something to make it look black. I forgot what the name is of this particular material, but if you go on their website, Toman, and just look up these things, they'll talk about this, and it's so they can export it places where rosewood is no longer legal to use, I guess. But you know, has a nice color to it. Just looks like a really dark wood. Apparently this one has a bone nut, I think, which is pretty good. The artist guitar one also had one. Seems like the fretting is the frets are pretty good. It's got a nice low action, and I'm not hearing any buzz. So that's a really good thing, because the most important things about guitars, especially if you're buying online, is a thing that you're never sure of. It's the, you know, the fretwork, how low you can get the action without buzzing, and that's really the most important thing about guitars, because everything else pretty much you can change. You can change the pickups, the hardware, the electronics, all of that stuff you can change. That'll change the tone, but nothing's gonna change the playability if you can't lower your action low enough without it buzzing. And then in order to deal with that, you're gonna have to get the frets leveled, and that's just a whole bag of can of worms that few people really want to get into. I probably will one day, but I just need the tools and the time and all of that jazz. But yeah, the fretwork looks nice. They look very polished, nicely capped frets. They don't have fret nibs. The artist guitar one had fret nibs, which is where the binding actually curls around the edge of the frets. So this, when you sort of slide down this guitar on the edge here of the neck, you do kind of feel the edges of the frets. Unfortunately, they're not perfectly sort of smoothed over as best as they could be, I guess. It's not painful or really a problem for me at all, but compared to that other guitar, it is a little bit of a drawback to this particular model. The pickups, I will try them out for a bit, then do the full review for you guys, as well as, again, like I said, comparing those two guitars. Maybe I'll find an Epiphone, maybe somebody out there will be able to lend a actual Gibson for the comparison, because that would be the best thing. But overall, looks pretty close. Doesn't feel like a Les Paul, though. That's the main thing. You would have had to have actually felt a Les Paul to really know it, and I know a lot of you people won't really care. But comparing this and that other one, this one definitely feels like a very different guitar. So the main thing is the very flat neck and the very light body. The body also I don't know if it's thinner, it's just light. Um, uh, Again, not because I think the wood is like a cheap wood or anything, it's just hollowed out in areas. Because you can plainly hear, and I've seen this in some other people's videos, that they noticed the same thing, and they found that, like, this part is solid, but you can definitely, I don't know if it's coming across on camera, but there is a hollow pocket in here. And then, you know, that could be a good or a bad thing, depending on what you want from the guitar. But first impressions, looks beautiful, great fret action. So far, this is a great start. As far as a guitar in general goes, it ticks the boxes for, you know, so far without actually plugging it in, which is great. Also got these nice inlays. They look pretty accurate, nice pearlescent inlays, very similar to the ones we got on the artist guitar and very faithful to an actual Les Paul. Just show you the headstock again. They did do a nice job with those central inlays and that stuff there. That's something the artist one doesn't have, and it looks really great on this guitar. And they got the little Harley Benton logo on the, what's that called? The truss rod cover. So yeah, I was thinking perhaps about changing the truss rod cover. Might not, probably not. Won't bother with that. But yeah, so that's my unboxing of this thing. Just first impressions, I think this guitar looks beautiful. I'm not too happy with the sort of changes they made to the top here, but again, that's really nitpicky, and it's just because, you know, most people going for this guitar go for it because they want a nice, inexpensive Les Paul. So any real, like, very obvious differences are gonna affect, you know, how the buyer is going to sort of relate to the instrument if it's not really what they're looking for. And also the top of the headstock isn't the best, but definitely looks a lot nicer in person than I was expecting. Everything else, it's nicely, you know, shiny. It's not really dusty or anything like that. Straight out of the box, you can tell it's been, you know, nicely cleaned up, especially the fretwork. It was definitely recently cleaned up, which is, again, a difference from that artist guitars one, where that one looked like it was sitting in a warehouse for a while, and the frets had started to get a little bit cloudy over the top. Just not as chrome, bright, polished as these. But yeah, I'm gonna put it up to tune, and in a day or two I'll spend a while playing around on it, and I'll do a proper review for you guys very soon. So do stick around for that. And again, thank you guys so much for watching. Yeah, keep on rocking, people. Peace out.